welcome you to my aquaponics and hydroponics greenhouse. I just wanted to set this video up to kind of show everyone what I've done with my greenhouse, my aquaponics and hydroponics setup, and use this as an opportunity to show everyone what you could do with some of the videos that are out there on YouTube, and kind of show you what I've learned from the videos on YouTube and see if you can do it for yourself. I've been doing this now for about 3 years. I started out really small with just a simple grow bed, and then eventually added on more stuff. Built the greenhouse eventually, I think my second summer. So it's been one of those things that's slowly grown over time, and I've added to my knowledge during that time, learned from a lot of mistakes, and I've made a lot of mistakes. And I've just sort of been experimenting with different types of setups, either like, media grow beds or the towers that you see here. Got some Dutch buckets back there. My fish. So there's a lot of different components to it, and I just kind of wanted to set up this video to introduce myself and show everyone what I've done. What it all started with is last year I made a New Year's resolution, one of many, to put some YouTube videos out there to kind of show what I've done and what I've learned from books and other YouTube videos. Most of what I've learned, honestly, has been from YouTube, so I thought I'd kind of return the favor and show people what I've done, tell people about the things I've learned and the mistakes I've made, and hopefully learn from those mistakes. Some of the things I've learned on my own, and some of the things I've learned from other users. Some of the people out there hopefully maybe are watching, I've learned from your videos, and so again, I just wanted to show people what they can do and show them what I've learned from it. So I'll try and keep them short, get right to the nitty-gritty of everything, and so make them easy for you to watch and maybe learn from them. And again, in the comment section, tell me what you've learned, tell me maybe some things I could do better. I'm welcome to that right now, but let's keep it civil. And then, every once in a while I'll show you my progress in certain projects and areas that I'm working on. But anyway, let's take a tour. Alright, so the first thing I wanted to kind of give you an intro to is the media grow beds. I have 4 beds. They were created by taking a 320 gallon or 270 gallon IBC tote, chopped it down to size. This one is about, I think about 10 or 11 inches, somewhere in that neighborhood. They're filled with, I use pea gravel. It's just kind of the basic pea gravel you get at like Home Depot or Lowe's in the bag, but I ordered a big truckload of it. So I use that to fill these beds and also create the floor in the greenhouse. It's heavy than, say, something like those hydroton clay balls, but it's a lot cheaper. I like it because it's easy to work with since it's rounded. It's not like I think they some kind of types of shale. It's a lot more angular. It's a little rough on the hands. I went with this stuff because, like I said, it's rounded, it's easy to work with, and it's inexpensive. It is very heavy. So that's something to consider when you're building the frames for your beds. If you raise them up like I did, make sure that they're reinforced to really carry that kind of weight, because I basically have probably a couple 100 pounds worth of gravel in each one, and then you add the water, just makes it even heavier. So it's something to consider. So the basic flood and drain beds, that means that the water coming in right here, either from the sump or from the fish tank. I have mine coming from the sump. The water fills up, gets to a certain point, and engages the siphon, which is down in here. We'll talk about that later if you don't know what a bell siphon is. So once that siphon is engaged, it sucks all the water out down pretty close to the bottom, and then it just keeps refilling that process. It's automatic as long as that water is coming in. It's just kind of like doing that cycle every 10 to 15 minutes, however you have it set up, whatever your water flow rate is, and it just keeps doing that. It helps incorporate the oxygen into the plants, the root system. I also have worms in mine, so again, it gives them that oxygen to help all the processes for the roots, as well as the worms, and keep that nitrification process going. So I have 4 of these. Like I said, I've gone up here. Just to kind of show you what I have. I have some various leaf lettuces growing in here. I have some romaine going here. I have a little corn salad going here, which I'm doing for the first time. Some Brussels sprouts, they're coming along nicely. Some broccoli, which is basically going to come out today. I even have a random tomato plant I just decided to let go from some seed in the summer. And then some cabbages down at the very end. It's a real nice system to start with. It's real easy. I literally, for these lettuces, I basically sprinkled seed in it, kind of worked it a little bit with my fingers, wet it, and away it goes. It's a great way to, you can either grow it straight in here, or even for the tower system, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It's a great way to kind of start your seedlings, and then you can even lift them up out of there and transplant them into the tower system, or you can even do raft bed. There's a lot of options, but this is a great way to get started. It's simple. It's easy to work with. You know, it's easy to reach everything that you need to in the bed since it's raised up at about waist level. So it's a real nice way for you to start. It's probably the most common way. It's real simple to do. You can have the water again coming from your fish tanks, or you can have it coming from a sump pump, or excuse me, sump tank like I do. But it's probably the most common way to start, the easiest way, and it makes it real simple to get started. So one of the other growth systems I have going in my greenhouse are these towers. You may be familiar with some of these. These I actually built myself. They're similar to design as some of the ones that you see out there. They're pretty straightforward. They're just, I used the 4" by 4" vinyl fence post covers, cut a slit down the middle of them, and then I have incorporated in them a little grow media which the plants go into, and then slide up on in there. Again, we'll get more into that later, but I just wanted to show you. I have one of them turned around. They're actually all facing that way because that's the sun treks across this direction. So I just wanted to show you, this is some of the leaf lettuces I was talking about, where I started them in the media bed that we were just talking about. Took some of the seedlings out and put them into these towers. So basically all the way it works is I have a reservoir sitting here that pumps water up to a supply line. It's a 1/2" black supply line with some drip irrigation going into the top of them. The water just trickles down through, gets collected in this trough, and gets returned back to the reservoir tank to complete the cycle. Same exact process in a sense that the media bed does, only that it's growing vertical. It's a lot better use of space. They're really easy to handle because I can just take this whole tower out of here, go harvest it, which I'm going to do today because this thing is just way too big to keep going. And then we just kind of keep the cycle going. We just put new plants in, let them grow, and come out here I would say about every 6 weeks. We could really, under ideal conditions with good fertilizer and good sun exposure, you can get some really fast production. So I have some arugula, some different types of leaf lettuces, some cilantro, some basil is going to go in here soon. They can do a lot of different types of greens in that. Cooking herbs, things like thyme and oregano just do fantastic in these. Fruiting ones are a little bit harder to do. It's a lot of weight to hang off the front, but there you can do a lot of different things. Again, it'd be a good way to experiment, to kind of learn what you like to do and what things work well in these. But greens and herbs are by far the best way to go with these towers. You can make them yourself. Each one of these cost me about $20 to make. They're only about 3 feet long. The vinyl fence post covers, I think I got them at Lowe's for about 16 bucks a piece, and chopped them down to size, and then put the cut up the middle. And then the media that goes inside, this comes big in big sheets. I run it across my table saw and make 2 of these things. This is a little pricey. A sheet comes, so I think about 24 inches by 39 inches, and so you kind of cut it down to size. That's a little pricey. It's anywhere from $35 to $40 a piece, but out of a single sheet I can make 6 of these, or 3. I should say I should make 3 of these inserts, 6 slices a piece. But anyway, it works out to about 20 bucks a piece, which is kind of pretty close to on par with what you're going to pay, but I just decided I was just going to do it myself. The next part that I wanted to show you are my Dutch buckets. This is kind of a new setup for me. I've just started getting into this. Started about 3 months ago. I've got some tomatoes going here, some peas back there, some newer tomatoes here, and even started some cucumbers. I started this just about 3 months ago, and it's done really well. And it's a really simple system. It really is just a 5-gallon bucket. Got a hole drilled in the side here with a 3/4 inch uniseal, 3/4 inch pipe return line. That actually goes down into the middle of the bucket there. It's filled with vermiculite all the way to the top. Put the top on here, put the plant in. It's fed by these, I got a 1/4 inch little drip lines going here, which is fed off the main 1/2 inch supply line here, which goes back to the pump that sits in the reservoir. The reservoir is just another 5-gallon bucket, and it just cycles. It goes in, comes out there, the line I was just showing you, into a main return line. This is the 1.5 inch PVC pipe here, and just goes back to the reservoir. And again, just creates that cycle. It's a really simple setup. What I've done here is I get this front row is all in one simple system, which it has a pump and a return line on its own, and then the back row has its own separate system. That means I can specialize the fertilizer that I use. So for this front row, I can use tomatoes, which I'm growing right now. The back row, I can do a whole separate fertilizer. I can do some kind of specialized, just kind of greens and herbs and lettuce kind of fertilizer for when they start. And then when they get a little bit more mature, I can change the fertilizer specialized to that. So I can do something more like peppers or cucumbers. I can specialize the fertilizer for that. So the last thing I'm going to talk about in this intro video that has gotten way too long are the fish. And they're really the workhorses of your whole system. They're the ones that are providing you the basically in the end, the nitrates that are used to feed all the plants. They produce their waste product, which is basically ammonia breaking down to nitrates, the nitrites, or maybe it's vice versa. And it's really what ends up feeding the plants that we've talked about already. So they're really the ones doing the work. We feed them. I got an automatic feeder here, provides them food a couple times a day. And they're the ones that are really providing the nutrients that are going to feed the plants. And then in the end, they're also going to be the ones, once we harvest the fish, that'll provide us those fish meals. In this case, I'm growing blue tilapia. They're probably one of the most common ones that I would recommend, because even in Georgia, the winter times get cold here. These guys can go down to 55 degrees, and I can attest that a couple times they've gotten a little bit colder than that. I got a on-demand hot water heater this year, which I'll show you in another episode, but they keep the water to a certain temperature and actually helps keep the greenhouse at a reasonable temperature. Even when it gets really cold out here, in Georgia, upper 20s, it'll stay in the 50s out here just by the water temperature kind of keeping the ambient air, nice and warm. So each of these fish tanks, I got 2 of them here. Right now I probably only have about 30 or 40. I'm sure on another episode we'll go over some of the major mistakes that I've had that I have such few fish right now, but we'll talk about that later. But each fish tank is supplied. I got a 1 1/4 inch PVC line that's going to each of these tanks. I actually have a venturi for each one of these, as well as an external air pump that's providing lots of aeration. These 2 here are the main drain lines that are going out to the filters, and we'll talk about those later, where they filter the water, and water end up getting returned back to the sump pump to start the cycle again. These guys are a lot of fun, at least as far as fun as a fish can be. I don't know. But they add that extra layer challenge. I will say, it's when you're thinking about doing either aquaponics or hydroponics setup, really pay attention to how much work you want to get into. These guys add an extra layer of complexity. The water has to be in good condition. They have to be fed. They have to make sure that they have plenty of air, plenty of oxygen, either through mechanical or like venturi means. You're going to have die-offs. I promise you, no matter how good you are, and mind you, my wife is an aquaculturist in her former life, it's not an easy process, but it is a good way to do it. Basically, my input into this system, I have, at least on the aquaponics side, is basically fish food. I give them the fish food, they eat it, they produce the waste. That waste, breaks down into food for the plants. It's a nice, simple cycle. But it is something that you have to consider, making sure that you have all the means for them. You got to be careful that if your pump shut down, you're going to have a major problem on your hands. And I have had that happen to me twice. And it's always a time that you don't need it to happen. So you got to have backup plans. You got to have all those things thought out in mind if you're going to do the fish part. But it is a worthwhile venture. But I'll show you a quick video here of what my fish are looking like now. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope it didn't get to be too long. I'll try and follow up with some more videos here in the next couple of weeks to show you some of the, getting a little bit deeper dive on some of these other things that we've talked about. So thanks for watching, and come back for more.